Greetings, folks, and welcome to today's show. Our subject today is Civil War memorials. Hopefully you've noticed the show that we had recently with Dr. Michael Bradley on this subject, and Dr. Mike was able to bring us the historian's view of the whole scene from the Civil War until the present, which is very useful. And of course the subject today is we're trying to deal with the controversy we have on what to do with the Civil War memorials and statues that are scattered all over the South and the North too, for that matter. And there's a big controversy about what to do with them, and that's what we want to deal with. I don't suppose we'll come up with a solution, but maybe we can give you some additional insights to think about it with. Our guests today are Eugene London, who you know very well as one of our local successful businessmen and civic leaders. And he has brought along with him Justin Hill, who is a student at Motlow, and we'll find out a little bit about Justin. So that is our subject for today, and we have a young man's perspective that we can add to the mix. So with that, before we get into the subject itself, Justin, how about telling the folks a little bit about you? What's your background?
I'm a Tullahoma native. I graduated from Tullahoma High School back in 2013. I attended the University of Tennessee at Chattanooga for a little bit afterwards before moving back here. I have 2 kids. I have a daughter who will be 3 in March. Her name is Malaya J. And I have a son who is 6 months old, and his name is Maddox James. And now I'm back in Motlow. I'm trying to get my nursing degree and get life going in the right track.
Okay. Majoring in nursing at Motlow. And we do have a need for those. So, well, okay. Let's take a short commercial break, folks, and we'll come back and get started.
Attention Shoeistas, Bryn's Shoe Boutique in Tullahoma is closing forever. Every item in the store is reduced for immediate sale. Brenda is offering huge discounts on her entire inventory of fashion women's shoes, designer handbags, and jewelry, featuring famous brands like Yellow Box, Nine West, Bandolero, Impo, Coach, Michael Kors, Joseph Ribkoff, and others. The sale is underway now through March 3rd. Hurry in for huge savings at Bryn's Shoe Boutique, 115 Northwest Atlantic Street, Tullahoma. Open 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. Monday through Friday and 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. Saturday.
All I have to do to think about what I was physically before and what I am now, and I don't ever want to go back to that original situation.
The overall mission of the rehab team is always what is best for the patient and how we can facilitate maximum potential from every resident.
Well, the most important thing to me is that I'm allowed to do whatever I want to do, you know.
Everyday Miracles, Life Care Center of Tullahoma.
Tired of paying for monthly telephone service, expensive long-distance bills, and all those crazy taxes? Are you sick of spending money on telephone equipment, maintenance contracts, and service calls, all for a phone system that shackles you to 100-year-old technology and your desk? Stop it. It's time to ship your phone system to the cloud. What can the cloud do for you? Bring together remote offices, workers, and employees in the field. Make sure that you'll never miss calls by delivering them to multiple devices. Modernize faxing by allowing multiple faxes to be sent and received at once. And deliver to email. Get your voicemail messages instantly through email too. And take advantage of an endless supply of customizable features. Host My Calls can deliver the cloud. All of this technology with low upfront costs and not 1 penny in capital expense. It's time for a phone solution you'll truly love from Host My Calls. Call the number below.
We're back, folks, and we're talking today with Eugene London, who is a local prominent businessman, and he's brought along with him a young man who's a student at Motlow, Justin Hill, and so we have the two of them to give us a little perspective. And one of the first subjects that crops up when we get into this is what really caused the Civil War. What was it all about? Why was it fought? Justin, you got a view you can share with us on that?
Yeah, I think what mainly caused the Civil War was the economy. It's just the South. That's the main thing they were worried about, was keeping their economy intact. And in order to do that, they needed their slaves to work the fields. I mean, it's not that they necessarily just wanted to treat them bad. They just want to secure their economy and make sure everything was going to be okay in the South, because they felt like the North didn't care about them. They were just worried about the North. So,
worried about the North, yeah, okay. The economy, and of course the economy was backed up by the slaves. And Justin's on the right track there. Probably 90% of the Southern economy was around cotton, and to get the cotton you had to have the slaves. It was very labor intensive. Eugene, you want to add something to that?
Well, you picked the wrong person to talk about history. I did very, very poorly in history.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I think I failed history
well,
a couple of times.
You must have picked up a lot of ideas down they may not be accurate, but
I concur with Justin. It had to do with the economics. But once again, it not only did it have to do with economics, but it also had to do with how either the North or the South could promote their economic gain in the cheapest form and fashion. And of course, we do that today. We figure out how we can get the best price for our labor. And at the time frame, under slavery, slave labor was cheap, and in some cases was free.
Once you bought the slave.
Right. And of course, we all know about slaves trying to escape to the North so they could get their freedom. And based on that, the South knew they were losing their workhorse. And they, like you said, they needed that in order to promote their cash crop, which is cotton.
Okay. And behind that, of course, was how do they deal with that? And we had a very interesting historical and political situation. South Carolina seceded from the Union. And they just said, we don't belong to the United States anymore, and that set up the confrontation, really, and it came about because when they declared themselves a new nation, they were sitting with a major fortress out in their harbor, guarding their harbor, and their harbor was very, very critical. Charleston at that time was the premier city in the whole country. And so there they had a fort, a federal fort sitting out in there. And they asked them to remove it, asked the government to remove the forces from the Fort Sumter, and the government refused. So after back and forth for a while, the South attacked Fort Sumter, and President Lincoln turned loose the military to go down and protect them, and neither side really declared war on each other. There was not really such a thing as a formal declaration of war. It just started. The North came down, and then from then on it continued to grow until it became a full-time war with the Northern troops invading the South. So as I indicated, Dr. Mike had pointed out to us that our view of things is constantly changing. History, he says, is constantly changing, and our view of history is constantly changing. And we tend to look at things back in those days in the same way we look at things now, which is not really quite cricket. The memorials themselves, what do they mean to you? What sort of reaction do you get, Justin, if you look at one of the Civil War memorials? We'll take Robert E. Lee, for example. Here's a statue sitting up on a big horse.
For me, I would probably take it as a history lesson coming from a younger generation. Older people, they might see it differently. You know, why were they put up, when, the timing that they were put up. I didn't personally know, generally. I wasn't even thought of in that time. So for me, seeing the statue, I'm going to ask questions, try to figure out what all he did, how successful was he, why is he right here, and was he a native of where he is, which I think he is. I'm not 100% sure on that, but I'm
native of Virginia.
Yes. I'm not necessarily offended by the statues, but someone older than me from that era may be.
Let's pick on the guy older than you over there. And
I'll pick on the old guy.
what do you see, Eugene, why is it stirring such a controversy when
I
people
think,
look at that?
Tom, is the intent. As we know, we hear that word today more often. It's always the intent. What is the intent? And of course, history is great. We have history for various reasons. I like to refer to history as lessons learned, so we don't repeat and do the same thing that caused problems. We want to make sure that we learn what we did wrong so we can do the right things as we move forward. I was reading an article, I think the Sons of the Confederate, Carl V. Jones, I believe, is the leader of that program. And if you recall, the movement of the statues was pretty much coincided with the movement of the Civil Rights Program. So as the Civil Rights Program beefed up, so did the movement of putting up these statues. So once again, it comes to what is the intent. Now when I see a statue of Robert E. Lee, is it offensive? No, it's not offensive, but I still focus on what was the intent, what message are we trying to send? And this may be way off the point. I mean, Hitler was part of history, but do we have statues of Hitler hanging around? Do we have the flag posted in different places? It all is based on the intent and what are we trying to do? But if something is offensive, I believe that we should not offend our brothers and that we should take it down. And it's kind of heartening if you have kids that graduate from our local schools that may have a statue from the Civil War in front of it, and they go off to college and say, where did you go to elementary school? I graduated from Nathan Bedford Fort's elementary school, for example, or Robert E. Lee. And they're like, man, you did what? Do you know who that guy was? No, not really. Well, what was your mascot? All back to intent once again.
Yeah. I believe we have a Robert E. Lee School here in
Yes,
Tullahoma.
we do.
Yeah. And so that's a good point. We'll talk about that a little bit more. Eugene has the viewpoint. It sounded like where the statutes were kind of late being put up. You sort of tied it in with the civil rights movement. Actually, I think they started fairly early. The Civil War ended in 1865, and I think there was an awful lot of history for the next 25, 30 years back and forth. The statutes started coming up around 1890.
Yeah, but it became more aggressive in the Civil War. The Civil Rights Movement, as far as the Sons of the Confederate with Carl V. Jones, his push to get more and more statues in play, if I'm not mistaken. And I could be an error there.
Yeah. Okay. Well, we need to stop a minute and take another commercial break, folks, and we'll come back and go some more.
Russell Barnett Hometown Auto Rental has proudly served your auto rental for over 30 years. Check out this huge selection to choose from. Small car, mid-size car, full-size car, crossover vehicle, SUV, minivan, pickup trucks, 12 and 15 passenger vans. Whether big or small, Russell Barnett Hometown Auto Rental has them all. Stop by our 2 locations to serve you, Tullahoma and in Winchester. And remember, my question is, why rent anywhere else?
It's time for every family and business in Tullahoma to go green and recycle. Tullahoma Public Works makes it simple and easy to recycle. Just place your recyclable materials, paper, plastic, aluminum, and cardboard beside your garbage container on the same day your garbage is picked up. Your recycled materials don't have to be in a fancy container. Recycling is not only the right thing to do, it makes sense. Recycling pays. Paying to bury our garbage costs each of us. Please do your part. Let's go green, Tullahoma, and recycle.
It's your trademark. That's something special everyone knows and remembers. It's your thing. It's made holidays special for decades and summers unforgettable for the entire neighborhood. It's made everyone laugh every single time. Don't let illness or injury keep you from doing your thing. The rehab team at Life Care Center of Tullahoma is ready to help you live well.
I'm meteorologist Leland Statham from the News Channel 5 Weather Center. Look to Jim Fuller and crew for local news night here on Channel 6.
We're coming back, folks, and we're talking today with Eugene London, and he brought along a young man, Justin Hill, who is a student at Motlow, and we're talking about this continuing civil disturbance that we have over what to do with the Civil War statues. And so we're going to deal a little bit more with that. If we look, and we have a little difference in the facts, I think, in terms of when they were put up. Probably some are still being put up, but they started around the 1890s. And I'm sorry, I have no information on how many statues have gone up when. But what do they mean? What do they stand for? What kind of inscription do you see around the statue?
Right.
You know, you got a thought?
I've never seen the inscription around it. I haven't taken the time to look.
Okay. Eugene?
Usually it identifies the individual, whether they're a general and Confederate, Army, etc.
Identify, right.
Right, it's just more of identification.
Yeah. Well, on most of them, on both sides of the Mason-Dixon line, have an inscription, and interestingly enough, as far as I've been able to tell, none of those inscriptions ascribe the Civil War to slavery. Those in the South will tend to say they were fighting to defend their home, and they were invaded. Those in the North, interestingly, also don't say anything about slavery. They tend to be put up in memory of the effort to preserve the Union, and that was President Lincoln's position at the time he was inaugurated. That whole effort was to preserve the Union, and he declared in his inaugural speech that he didn't think he had the legal right to end slavery, and he had no intention of doing it. This is in April 1861, which was 4 months after South Carolina had seceded. So that's where that was, and as I say, we have these two principal views, I think. One is that they represent the effort to preserve the Union. The other is that they represent the effort to protect and defend their home. So I don't know of any way we resolve that one either. But the question now is, and Eugene, I think you came close to taking a position a minute ago, but the question is, what do we do with them?
I think the statues are definitely a part of history, and whether they should be in a public setting, in front of a building, in front of a school, I may take question to that. Maybe in a museum, so that we can learn from our mistakes. I would say probably. I don't say it's right for there to be riots and people to throw a rope around a statue and tear it down. I think that doesn't demonstrate that we are humane and that we are peaceful people. And I think from my perspective, it all goes back to peace and love. Something's got to happen when we offend someone and something is offensive. We've got to be intelligent enough to say, you know what, that item or that object offends someone, and that person's offended, and we can justify they're offended. Now let's do the right thing. And it's like, we talk about leaving things in a time capsule. What would you leave in a time capsule that would give someone who's never been here, who's never seen us, a great perspective of who we want them to think that we are? Will we leave a picture of a statue of the Confederate general based on what we knew would happen? Or we leave something that says that how we resolve the problem, to demonstrate that we are peaceful people, that we understand what it takes to love one another and move forward. If I did something that was offensive to you and you told me that, you can say, hey, Eugene, that hat that you're wearing or that Tennessee jersey versus an Alabama jersey, that's offensive to me. I may take it off. That's kind of being silly, but it boils down to me respecting your position and also making sure that I don't create a situation that's going to cause people to become violent and upset. And, it's all about love. We've got to get along with each other.
Not doing a terribly good job of it. Well, your point's well taken, and of course the rub there, the immediate rub, and when you say if it offends somebody, do something about it. But the question of whether it offends somebody, we got a million people here, all of whom have a little different idea of what the thing is all about, and whether they're offended or not, and if so, how badly. So, how then? Justin, go ahead.
I feel like if we're gonna have statues of people out in public places, it should be statues that were people who contributed to the United States of America. I don't think we should be commemorating the Confederacy, because the Confederacy, to me, was an enemy to the United States of America. And we shouldn't have statues of our enemies on our soil. I know people always split it up between the Union and the Confederacy, but as you said, South Carolina seceded from the other United States of America, and then others followed suit. So we called one the Confederacy and one the Union, but the states that didn't succeed were still under the government of the United States of America. So the Confederacy was therefore an enemy to the United States of America. They were complete. They had their own government, all that. They set up their own constitution. And
well, how an enemy though? What? They didn't.
Well, we were at war with them, so they would be an enemy.
We were at war, yeah. What? Who started it and how come? Well, okay. No, I
attacked
understand.
Fort Sumter earlier, correct?
But moving forward, we can debate forever till the cows come home, as they say, of what started, what was the purpose. But where are we today? Where are we today? Do we want to continue to be the ostrich walking forward, our head turned backwards, or do we want to focus on what brings us together?
Okay.
And if the Confederate flag, the Confederate statue is a symbol or an object that causes us to be at odds, then why not remove it?
Do it. Do something about it.
I go back to the Tennessee and Alabama. My brother played for Alabama, of course, and I became an Alabama fan. You may walk in my house and see a room that looks like an Alabama shrine, but that's inside my home. but I think some of the things that we do within our home, if somebody wants to have their Confederate, I have an employee who's a historian when it comes to the Confederacy. He goes all around the country, the various cemeteries, things of that nature, and he's got uncles and things of that nature. But he's a great guy. But he's not pushing what I consider to be what I call the newbies that have taken up this position that we saw in Charlotte, and that we're continuing to see around the United States, where it's all about race and about one party not being equal to the other party.
Okay, well, Eugene, I'm afraid we've run out of time. I'm going to have to shorten it there. We had a good line going then, folks, but we need to take a short commercial break and we'll wrap up.
Russell's got your truck, man. Russell's got your truck. Chevy, Ford, and Ram, man. Russell's got your truck. With the best selection anywhere. Russell's got your truck.
Keith Barnett here at the Russell Barnett Automotive family, and man, do we ever have your truck. 4 brands, hundreds to choose from, all at year-end discounted prices. So with so much to choose from, my question is, why buy your next truck anywhere else?
Russell's got your truck, man.
Get your news first, fast, and free with your news leader on 6 every Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday nights at 6, 8, and 10 p.m. Local weather, sports, community calendar events, and a comprehensive look at the latest news stories and news makers as only a video news broadcast can do. Get it first, fast, and free with News Leader on Channel 6, your local information network.
We've been talking today, folks, again with the subject of the Civil War memorials and all the controversy we have, and what do we do about it? And I don't know that we've completely solved it, but hopefully we've given you a few things to think about. And our guests today have been Eugene London, and he brought along with him Justin Hill, a young man. Eugene, you got a quick message for the folks?
Yeah, I believe the key to success, Tom, is making sure that anything that causes division, that we try to figure out a way to remove it from the equation and factor in the things that bring us together.
Okay. All right. Well, with that, folks, I want to thank both of you for taking time to join us. Thank you for inviting us into your parlor, and we'll see you next time.